Isabel has another presentation to give on the budget process. So I'd like to move on. Scott?
What he asked me to do tonight was to put together a very short presentation on what makes up the municipal budget law and what is, in general terms, the school budget process. As many of you are aware, as we go through the municipal budget process, there's a number of common questions or frequently asked questions that come up on simple things like, what is a budget committee? Whose budget goes before the voters? What is the budget process? So I put together about 10 slides just to go through that process. Again, these questions have come up when we sat at the meetings with the Municipal Budget Committee, and then after the budget was passed, some of these questions have come up again. So if you bear with me for about 10 or 15 minutes, I just want to go through some of the frequently asked questions and try to bring some light to that. Very simply, what's an official budget committee? The legal definition, an official budget committee is one that's adopted by the vote of the legislative body under RSA 3214. So basically, in a town or school district that has an official budget committee, it's the official budget committee, rather than the town, which would be the selectmen, or the school board, has the duty to prepare the budget, hold public meetings, and ultimately present the budget to the voters. That is the charge of the municipal budget committee. Another common question that comes up is, we go through the budget process, whose budget is it that's actually presented to the voters? Is it the budget committees or the school board? The answer is, in a town with an official budget committee, which we have in Guilford, the budget committee's recommended budget is the one that's presented to the voters. The town selectmen and school board, they're charged with preparing and presenting the budget proposals to the budget committee. However, it's the budget committee's recommended budget that's presented to the voters at the deliberative session and voted on by official ballot. So the way the process works is that the superintendent early on in September and October puts together a budget proposal to the school board. The school board will then make some fine adjustments to that, and they will present their budget in December and January to the municipal budget committee. The municipal budget committee will then review that budget and go through usually a process of about 6 weeks, and then they will come up with a final recommended budget that will be put on that will be presented at the deliberative session and then placed on the ballot. Can an official budget committee tell the governing body, the school board or the selectmen, how to spend the appropriations? And the answer to that clearly is no. And this question comes up a lot during the budget committee deliberations when the budget committee meets with the school board to discuss the school district's budget, and oftentimes with the selectmen. The purpose of the budget committee is to assist the voters in prudent appropriation of public funds. While the budget committee has the duty to review the school board and selectmen's budget proposals, it's the budget committee's primary duty is to prepare and present the budget committee's budget to the voters. Another question that comes up a lot is, what is the official ballot referendum or Senate Bill 2, or what you commonly hear as SB 2? And basically, it's a form of town meeting that has 2 sessions. The first session, which is the deliberative session, is for the preparation, debate, and amendments to the proposed budget committee's recommended operating budget for the town and the school, and put together and discuss warrant articles. The second session, which is the voting session, allows the voters to cast their votes for local elections, zoning articles, and the warrant articles. Back in 2004, SB 2 was adopted in Guilford. What is a default budget? In simple terms, a default budget is the budget that is adopted when the proposed operating budget fails to get a majority vote at the town voting session. The default budget is the same as last year's budget with certain adjustments. And some of those adjustments, the bottom portion of this is the exact wording on how you come up with a default budget. Basically, you take the prior year's budget less any contracted obligations, plus or minus any debt service, and then a reduction of any one-time expenditures, which could be in 1 year if there was a proposal for a piece of equipment for the school district, which is a one-time expenditure, that would not be included in the default budget in the prior year. Question that's come up again through the process and then most recently is, what has the impact been of SB2 had on the passage of the school district's budgets that have been proposed by the budget committee on the official voting ballot? What I want to try to demonstrate here is there has been a working relationship between the budget committee and the school board to put together a budget for the school district. In the 7 years since the SB2 was passed in 2005, both the budget committee and the school board recommended to the voters of Guilford to adopt the budget committee's budget, which would be the amount of money that would fund the school district. After the first year of the adoption of SB2, the school district budget did fail. The next year, both the budget committee and the school board both recommended that the voters adopt the budget committee's budget, and in that year the budget did pass. The following year was a year where we did not have an agreement between the budget committee and the school board. In that year, the budget committee recommended to the voters not to adopt the budget committee's budget. I'm sorry, the school board voted, the school board recommended that the voters do not accept the budget committee's recommended budget of the school board, and the budget committee did recommend passage of that. In that year, the budget did fail. Subsequent years, the budget committee and the school board did come together on agreement on the budget and did ask the voters of Guilford to recommend and adopt the budget. So what we're trying to address here is, in the 7 years since SB2 has been introduced in Guilford, 2 of those years the budget did fail. The first year, although the budget committee and the school board did recommend it, the voters did not approve that. In the third year, the budget committee did recommend the budget, the school board did not recommend it. And one of the key issues at that time was, in the budget there was an inclusion for the establishment of football in Guilford. And there was discussion of whether that should be a separate petition warrant article and or should it be part of the budget. The budget committee did not recommend that be put in the budget, so that was reduced. The school board did recommend that was put in, so that was some of the debate. But again, what we wanted to show that over the last 7 years, both the school board and the budget committee have really worked collaboratively to come up with recommendations on the budget that the budget committee would propose to the legislative body, which would provide funds to run the school district. What's a citizen's petition warrant article? A petition warrant article provides a process whereby registered voters can petition the selectmen or the school board to place an article in the warrant. And basically, the warrant article is put on the ballot at the deliberative session, the same type of discussion that a regular warrant article would have. The citizens petition warrant article would also have that same discussion, and the voters at that time can either recommend to change the warrant article and or have the warrant article forward to be included in the voting ballot. What's an example of a petition warrant article? An example that I'd like to bring forward today is the Guilford High School varsity and junior varsity football team warrant article is an example of an article that was placed on the March 2008 warrant by a group of registered voters in Guilford asking for the following. Basically, it was a petition warrant article where a group of registered voters came forward and said, we'd like to raise and appropriate $30,000 for the establishment of a varsity and junior varsity football program at Guilford High School. They identified at that time that $22,500 would come from general taxation. The balance of $7,500 would be raised from gate receipts and fundraising. This is an example of a petition warrant article that was recommended both by the budget committee and by the school board and was placed on the ballot to be voted on by the voters of Guilford. And that was a warrant article that was passed, and we do have a varsity and junior varsity football team in Guilford. If you bear with me, I just want to go through a couple more slides. Some of the common questions come up. So what's the purpose? What is a school district budget? Very simply, the school district budget is the financial reflection of the educational plan of the school district. Budget committee development process. What are some of the factors, and I'll just touch on these briefly, but what are some of the factors that the Guilford School Board and the school administration consider when they begin to prepare the annual budget? Some of the things that we look at, what we do is we evaluate the existing and proposed educational programs, as well as any programs newly mandated by the state and federal government. So we look at the programs we currently have. We look at some of the direction where we want to go with some of our programs as we begin the process. We do an evaluation of student enrollment and class size. What the board over the last several years has asked us to do, and specifically the superintendent, is look at the class size and make any additions or subtractions in the teaching staff depending on class size. Also, we look at his evaluation of our school facility maintenance program, and we also have a long-range capital improvement plan that we look at when we're looking at and developing our budget. We also review something that's near and dear to my heart, the district's financial reports. What we look at is, what was our expenditures last year? What are the expenditures and some of the challenges we have in the budget the current year? And then what do we anticipate as some of the budget challenges as we move forward? We also review revenues to see how will that impact the tax rate. As you're probably reading in the papers now and also the legislature, there's some proposed changes to some of our catastrophic aid. How does that have an impact on the amount of money that we have to raise from local taxes to fund the school district budget? And very simple, some of the things we also do is during the budget process, there's some recommendations and comments made by the municipal budget committee to the school board and school administration as we go through our deliberations. When the budget committee holds their public hearings, and then when we actually have the deliberative session, we get feedback also from the citizens of Guilford on some of the things they would have liked to see in the budget, or some of the things they would have liked to have changed, or have you looked at different components of the school district and how that may affect the bottom line of the budget. So we gather that information and use that in our decision-making process. What has been our track record? What has been the percentage of increases and decreases in the general fund portion of the school district budgets that are proposed by the school board and presented to the voters by the budget committee for the past several years? What has our history been? The superintendent illustrated this point during the first session of the budget committee work session this past year, highlighting the collaborative efforts between the school board and the budget committee to control the increases. What you can see is back in 2005-2006, the school district budget that was asked for the voters to adopt in the general fund portion was up 7.5%. What the school board and the budget committee have been working together to do is try to bring those increases down, and actually 2009, 2010, 2010, 2011, the proposed budget for the general funds was actually less than the prior year. So what we're trying to illustrate here is the fact that there has been a collaborative effort between the budget committee and the school board to try to reduce the school district's portion of the tax rate. And with that, I'll open up for a few minutes for any questions or comments.